Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. It is Banner and Backbones Anti-Fascist Book Club, and I am Nick Perro. I'm joined by three of my really good friends and close colleagues here at Banner and Backbone: Melissa Corrigan, Shane Urick, and Ellie Leonard, and our special guest today, Stephanie Wilson from Freedom Over Fascism. She is a historian, a friend, a doctor in history.
Not,
Has her
I was going
doctorate
to
in
say not the
history.
useful kind of doctor.
Not the useful kind of doctor, but actually, right now,
Don't
maybe the
say that.
most useful kind of
Don't say
doctor.
that at all. I disagree.
I think historians right now are probably some of the most useful people in
Yes.
our society because they teach us what is good and possibly really, really bad and what to look out for and how we can work on history. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome.
Good
We are
afternoon.
finished. Good afternoon. We are finishing our discussion on what is fascism today in the final sections of grievance and the conclusion. And before we get into any of the readings, I'd love for everyone to round robin from Melissa down, if we can, on our screen here. Introduce yourselves, and we'll end with our wonderful guest, Stephanie, and get right into it.
All
Melissa?
right. Hi, I'm Melissa Corrigan with Counter Story Media.
Shane?
Hello, I am Shane Urick. I'm with the Firebrand Project.
I
Ellie?
am Ellie Leonard, and on here it says I am a writer. So I am a writer, and I am on Substack under the Panicked Unpaid Writer.
And finally, our wonderful guest, Stephanie.
I'm Stephanie with Freedom Over Fascism, and I'm a historian. And I keep forgetting to say that I also have worked in strategic communications for quarter of century. So got that too. That makes me feel really old. That's why I don't usually say it.
Don't worry about it.
It's, we don't worry about it. And I'm Nick Perro, host, friend, and host of the Sick of This Shit with Nick, and co-founder here at Banner and Backbone. So welcome, everyone. Let's get back into it. I'm going to jump into our next page, which is going to show what we're reading, and I will look at that, everybody. Fancy, fancy little pictures for y'all. I'm going to make sure to also put up into, or Shane, could you put into all the chats this morning the link to, I'll drop it in for our chat here.
I have it pulled up right now, so let me.
And we're going to drop the link for our reading today, which is What is Fascism? We've been reading this here for the last 3 weeks because there is a buttload to talk about.
Yes, indeed.
And oh no, it doesn't look like Ellie is showcase. Her channel is on. That's not
That's
cool.
okay. You know what? We'll figure it out. I'm not worried.
I think it's because I didn't turn your channel on.
See, I would never.
We'll see
know.
here. We'll see here in a second.
Nick.
I know. Oh, sending data. Sending data. Ellie will turn.
I don't know what you're speaking another language. I don't know what any of this means, but
we're just gonna, there we go. And now it says streaming, which means here in a second, Ellie, if you were to go to your homepage, you would see yourself streaming. I got the notice too, is Ellie is live on Substack now too. And so the problem is Restream does not aggregate or pull together the chats from Substack yet, which is a huge pain in the ass. So Restream, get on that. Like, come on, y'all. Like, Substack, Restream, do something better. We know you can be better than this.
Be better, Restream. Come
be
on.
better for us.
I actually think it should all be in Substack, and we shouldn't have to do the Restream.
Right. I agree. Substack should do better.
Substack, do better so that we can stream easier and stream, just restream from Substack instead of restream into Substack. Like, y'all got the power.
They do.
But what are we talking about today is what is fascism? And can it happen here? Before we get into it, I guess too far is Melissa. You give a really good overview of what the book club is and isn't. Can you give us just a quick recap, and then we'll jump in after that right into our section on grievance.
Absolutely. So the first thing that we always tell everyone, because it is an anti-fascist book club, we are in no way associated with the nonsensical, non-organized entity that is Antifa. So this is not an Antifa meeting. So if you need to leave now, you can do that. Stop reporting us to the FBI. We're just a book club.
CIA guy who listens in on my phone. Don't worry about it. You already
Right.
know everything. We're transparent here.
So
That's
what
right.
we do is we read over pertinent literature and we have discussions about it for the purpose of educating and empowering you to take that knowledge and go out and fight Nazis.
That's right.
Fight the Nazis.
Fight
Shane?
them Nazis.
Shane, I think you got some... Oh, no, that was me. Sorry. Shane, I think you had something you wanted to say, though, before I jumped in there. Sounded like you were going somewhere.
No, I mean, I think that, like, Melissa said, just to clarify, Antifa does not exist. We just like to read books that remind us of the most depraved form of governance that we've seen in history, one of them. So, yeah, Antifa, we don't know them. Never heard of them. So, yeah, we just like to read about shit that could quite possibly happen and is happening right now.
I hear Antifa likes to give interviews on Fox News, but
Wow.
with their, did you see that with the face mask on? That was an Antifa member giving an ex-Antifa member gave an interview on Fox News. So.
Did they like modulate his voice? I was an Antifa.
I don't know. It basically just looked like an ICE agent. It was the standardized guy in the face mask of either a January 6th event and or now what is ICE agencies. So yeah.
I mean, they pretty much identify as the same thing, don't they?
Yeah.
As J6ers. I was listening in. One of the reasons that they hide their faces too is possibly because they're hiring prior felons who and I was listening in, I think it was Maya May on Lincoln Square. It was just, they're paying these people blood money to, it's all J6ers and felon and like prior felons. And the contract is you do everything we tell you to do. You get this car, you get this $100,000 plus bonus, you get your sentence commuted basically, but you have to do everything we tell you to do to the letter. And they're doing it. And that's why they're covering their faces.
For the amount of people that they have, why we have a government shutdown when you have, what is it, $159 billion to give to ICE, but also like,
well, that's the point.
With the amount of people that they have in ICE, they have no control over people leaving and running their mouth. They just don't have control over that. Like with the chance of nobody ever coming forward and talking about the training and the things they were asked to do and the requirements and the non-requirements is so slim. And it's just kind of a waiting game for when that's going to happen.
Exactly.
Someone's going to come forward and just start running their mouth and getting a book deal and being obnoxious and, and then more people will. So it's just kind of like we have to wait it out.
Right. I always tell people when they go off on conspiracy theories with anything involving the military, which conspiracy theories are true or not because people talk. And the entire military ain't keeping nobody's secrets.
No.
So, and I think it's important that we also mention, because of the content that we're going to be reading today, this was written by Task Force Butler, Chris Goldsmith with Task Force Butler over 2 years ago. So I think that's important to, he didn't just write this content based on current events. This was written over 2 years ago.
Yeah. That's a great point to make. Is this is not new writing. This is just writing that fits in perfectly because Chris Goldsmith and the Task Force Butler team knew what they were writing and knew what they were talking about. And they studied history and they studied current events and current trends. And they saw the direction it was going. And they said, here's what will happen. Here's what it would look like if somebody did this from a fascist, just a generic fascist doing this. This is how they would rise. And that's exactly what happened. And so I think today, where we're going to go to right now, which is our grievance section, which is sort of why I was bringing up the piece about the ICE members being prior felons, which, guys, I have nothing wrong with felons and prior felons and people who are coming back into society and learning and becoming productive members of society. But we're not doing that for these folks. We're turning them into worse people. Like, we're not helping and constructing anything forward, and we're creating a structure of grievance, and have created a structure of grievance in this country. And I wanted to get Stephanie, your thoughts on all of this while we're looking at it and seeing what the writing has to say, and then all of our thoughts build on, or if we disagree in areas, because I think we're living through a moment of shared grievance. And Stephanie, I'd love to hand it over and get your thoughts on that.
I just want to add one thing really quick. I'm sorry sorry to cut you off, but I want to add to Nick's thought that I thought, just to what you're saying about them, pulling felons and all this stuff. They also dissolved like the federal police database where they kept track of all the different officers who had committed crimes and stuff like that very early on. It was one of the first things I saw they did. I was like, dude, fuck, that's terrible. But I think that also contributes to these ICE agents as well. They're able to get these guys who were, less than moral, police officers who committed, crimes and or abused their power into ICE as well. So I just wanted to add that really quick. And then, yes, Stephanie, please go ahead. Thank you.
As Nick said, grievance and shared grievance is kind of how you pull people together. And in the United States, luckily, there's a lot of history here where the white, as were majority, maybe not anymore, had white supremacy used people of color, Jews, Muslims, anybody not white and Christian as others. And now they're essentially LGBTQ plus people, they're essentially consolidating that group so that everyone has someone to choose from. And the idea of grievance comes with people who thought they were on top of the pile, and then other people sort of come up a little bit closer to them, and so they think that they're being oppressed because supremacy is no longer really theirs. So then obviously if they're not supreme, they must be oppressed. So we have a fantastic breeding ground for something like this, with all of our baked in racism and homophobia and xenophobia and anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, and I could go on and on and on, but it's all here ready to be harnessed. And that's what the regime is doing right now. And frankly, what the Republicans have been doing for a really long time. Unfortunately, we have a fairly closely divided country, and only half of us want a nice multicultural democracy, and the other ones want white Christian supremacy. So they use that to the supremacists use that to remind themselves what they are owed, because they're no longer superior. So they're owed superiority and supremacy. And the people who are taking that away are the people that they need to be against. But also from the top, they want a group of people fighting against each other, so then they can also be more corrupt and make more money. As all of this is going on, you'll notice that the billionaires are making more and more and more and more and more money, while those of us out here in the real world are facing higher prices and a lot of unemployment and stuff like that. So I think there's a multiplicity of ways that this all comes together into this moment.
Ellie, Shane, or Melissa, either any of you want to jump in?
I want to piggyback off what you said, a couple things. Because one, you were talking about creating, there's billionaires enriching themselves, right? And you have the centimillionaires as well, right? There's 10,800 centimillionaires in America. Okay, so these are the people that are $100+ million. They're equally as powerful. I mean, they are not equally per se, but there's a lot more of them, and they're all trying to get into the billionaire club. So what I think and there's another thing that is the number of billionaires has gone up significantly, actually, like a notable percentage since 2024. And the same with the centimillionaires. Like, it's actually crazy, like how I'm like, dude, what? There's like, I have an article that I wrote about it, and I'll give it to Nick so he can put it in the show notes so you guys can reference it. It's about the oligarchy. But just the actual stats are in there. But I think by creating these economic conditions, right, where people are suffering, the goal is to be able to scapegoat marginalized groups for these issues so that they can turn people against each other, right? So that they continue to push this narrative of other people being, the problem. And that allows for divisiveness, which allows for them to further exert control. And that is part of creating the grievance, is creating conditions where you can create an enemy, the enemy within, right? Like, it's no mistake that the term is used again, and it's historically a significant term. It's something that is intrinsically linked to fascism, this idea of an enemy within.
Well, it needs to be there if fascism is going to exist.
Correct.
As a counter force.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say, like, when we think about just the separation of finances, how the top is just going higher and higher and higher. Meanwhile, we're going lower and lower, and there's just this giant wage gap. And yet people who support the billionaires and millionaires with their votes think that they're very close. They think that they're very close to that top, and that they could get there as well. And that's when you start to see people kind of in the Stockholm syndrome idea, where they're voting for things that hurt themselves because they don't realize that they are nowhere near and will never be near the top, and those people will never deign to walk down the same street with them. And you see it, an example that I see just where we live, we have a very heavy immigrant community. It's vastly diverse, lot of South and Central American countries, but a lot of like Middle Eastern countries. And like, we have a couple friends from Egypt, and we have friends from the Middle East and Eastern Europe. You see a lot of homes where they have 3 and 4 generations living under one roof, great grandparents, grandparents. And yet you still hear them saying things about the bad immigrants, right? Like we support Trump because there are bad and violent immigrants. And it's so confusing to me, because I'm looking at their great grandmother who, walks to the bus stop every morning and doesn't speak English, and is either not a citizen or is a very recent citizen. And how you can think that the majority of people coming to this country are bad when this is your entire family. And it's that hierarchy from within that teaches people to say, although I'm looking at you and although on some level I know we're the same, I'm being told that we're not the same. And so now, because we're not the same, you are now bad and I'm going to fight against you, even though we're on the same footing.
Yeah, I totally agree there. I mean, I live in Arkansas where it's fairly less diverse in a lot of ways, though the area that I'm in Arkansas is more diverse than most because we have Walmart and a bunch of larger corporations in this area who appeal to a slightly more diverse audience, or I mean, slightly more diverse background, but it is fairly monocultural in general. For us, it's white or India. Like you're from India, you're a white person, or maybe you're from El Salvador. And that's it. Like there's three really big communities overall. And it's one of the things I've noticed is the way that they structure grievance is also very caste system oriented. It is very modeled off of the caste system. And the idea of excellence over others. And that caste system isn't unique to India. I mean, that's the patriarchal system in the Christo-fascist playbook is a caste system. So I'm not ragging on India specifically, but they have a very strict caste system that a lot of them are very, very still into internally as families or as just overall communal groups. It's like that machismo thing for some of the Hispanic communities. For Americans, it's just white Americans. It's sort of just built into our culture of machismo, or like, I guess, overly aggressive white males who have to compete for everything and everything's a competition all the fucking time and you have to be a 10 or 100xer, and that creates grievance too. Like I was in a work environment where I had grievances against people in my job because they kept stealing my ideas or stealing my work and putting their name to it. And I didn't have a shared grievance with other people. The shared grievance was against me because it was as though I wasn't doing anything. So it became a grievance against me, which made it a really hostile work environment. And the person who led that charge was removed from the company in a happily let go before I was, which was a victory for me to see, was that this individual, I'll say he and that's it, did something to somebody else and that other person just happened to be louder than I was and in a position where they were willing to lose their own job to do it. And I couldn't. But it's the fear of other. And it was like, it was a grievance structure of why aren't you working hard enough for this? Or why aren't you putting out more for this? We expect more from you. You should be doing more all the time. You should be doing this. Well, it's just a competition against each other. And it's awful. Like,
well,
it's
I have
fear because it's not a competition with each other.
Right. Melissa?
Something that I have found is so curious to me, and I think we're going to look back and see that the right-wing media propaganda system has been one of the most profoundly successful propaganda campaigns in perhaps all of history. Because, and I'm about to use some words, and I'm not disparaging anyone by any means, but you have people living in trailers, working minimum wage jobs, on food stamps themselves, on Medicaid themselves, absolutely calling for the destruction of those programs, lest someone that they deem as the other get those programs. So they are willing knowingly to lose those programs themselves just so that someone else will also these people that they deem as the other, whether it's immigrants or a gay couple or anything. If it's an other, they are willing to sacrifice their own family's financial stability and even health care just as long as we stop other people from getting that. And that is like watching that unfold has been one of the most profoundly curious and really astonishing phenomenon that I think I've ever seen in my life.
I just wanted to say, oh, go ahead, Stephanie.
So though I know this isn't the way, so one could think that they know that they're doing this, right? That they know that they're trying to keep, that they know that their own benefits are tied to what they're trying to keep other people from getting. But I think they don't really make that connection between this is how I'm getting by, and I don't, it's very zero-sum thinking, right? Either I get it or you get it. And not even knowing that some of the people that they're afraid of getting, say, whatever, undocumented immigrants on Medicaid, it's illegal. It doesn't happen, right? So, but they've been so inculcated with this hate and misinformation and disinformation that they just believe Mike Johnson went out there and said something that was 100% backwards, wrong, upside down, as if the Democrats held all the power and were turning off the government so that those illegals could get all of your stuff. And
JD Vance went on TV. Sorry, JD Vance went on TV too. Sorry to cut in there, Stephanie.
I have something to add to that as well, because you were talking about Mike Johnson. I thought there was an interesting. I saw the tactic he used during an interview, where they go, well, they challenged him, and he says, well, that's just completely wrong. That's not what happened. This is what happened, and that's the truth. And what the media consistently fails to do is to push back on their closing, because if they, instead of letting him close the argument with that's the truth, if they had pushed back again, it's that they let the fascists, they let them close the loop. And that's a strategy. That's a very important strategy, is that the last word, as long as they have the last word, the two most important things when you make a statement, you make a claim, is the first thing you say and the last thing you say. You notice in his claim, the first thing he said is, that's a lie. And the last thing he said is, I just told you the truth. That's not a mistake. And the media consistently fails on that front, where they allow them to use this closed loop tactic, which is what allows them to keep these people in a loop of disinformation, because all they remember is, oh, they're lying, and Mike Johnson's telling me the truth. And Nick said something too I wanted to call back to, is that the loudest people, you were talking about, they were the loudest. Fascists are always the loudest. Always. It's important, because the louder you are, the more you can control the narrative. It's the Democrats' biggest failing. I was talking about this with Rick Herbst the other day, is that the Democrats do not scream loud enough. Like we were talking, it's like, if the Democrats did what the fascists are doing, and instead of like just ad hominem, like, oh, well, the Republicans to say we did this, well, how about they release the Epstein files? Like all they should do is just ad hominem Epstein files, ad hominem Epstein files. Don't defend yourself. It's pointless. They're just going to lie to you. Instead, attack them.
Exactly.
Attack them.
And one of the things about defending yourselves, as soon as you start using the same words that they do, even if you have they don't blah blah blah, or they're not blah blah blah, you're reinforcing their message. I don't think enough Democrats really understand that they need to start an entirely new conversation. And as you were saying, Shane, like this shutdown, like why? Yes, I understand why they're like talking about Medicare, but it would have been so much more effective had they been like, no, we're not funding fascism. Where are the Epstein files? No, where are the Epstein files? No, we won't fund that. Where are the Epstein files? You know, and
it's so easy. Like,
It's
I don't
so
understand.
easy.
How is it the five of us can sit here and figure this out in 5 minutes? To also, fascists use deeply emotion populist appeals, like we've been talking about, the foreigner, the prejudice towards the foreign influence. Yet we have a foreign influence we could easily spread a non-fascist populist agenda on. Is an international group of people are behind the Epstein files and have funded the Epstein files and pedophilia, child sex trafficking, and it is directly linked to the president of the United States and the mentor of the vice president of the United States and multiple advisors within the presidency and the executive branch. The executive branch is a bunch of pedophiles or protectors of pedophiles funded by an international group. We need the Epstein files so that we know who funded these organizations so we can stop it. Or we just need to pay Ellie Leonard a lot more so that she can be full-time doing this. And
yeah, no kidding.
With Zev Shalev. Like, I'm serious. I want to pay Ellie
to that
and Zev.
funding, like why, or tied to the vote. Why has no mainstream media asked Mike Johnson to his face why he will not swear in a duly elected representative of the people, and she would be that swing vote to force it? Why has no mainstream media asked why a duly elected representative of the people is not being sworn in on time?
It's the same reason they didn't ask why McConnell wouldn't put back in Obama days where Obama nominated Garland to be on the Supreme Court and McConnell wouldn't hold those hearings for a year.
Funny how the only black president we've ever had couldn't get a Supreme Court nominee over a year before his last in his presidency, and Donald Trump got one in the last fucking month.
Right.
Like, just rammed through Amy Coney Barrett in the last month. That is coordinated tactics. That was coordinated suppression. And now I think we're at the part, because I scrolled down a little bit in our text, because I think we're at the part where the strong man, or I guess fat man, as the generals and the admirals and flag officers referred to them, was the little boy and the fat man are projecting power to intimidate the masses through an omnipresent ICE Gestapo that is now using the U.S. Armed Forces for training exercises for Black Hawk pilots to fly in and drop off ICE forces, because that's what that was. That was that was military training for Black Hawk pilots to fly in, do a city operation, repel ICE agents in, and leave. If you don't think that was a military operation, you have never seen war before, and you don't know what wartime operations look like. That is a wartime operation. I've been to war. I've seen that. I know that. I know those stories because I've heard them from people who lived them in the military while I was in. Melissa can tell you stories like that. She knows how these things work. Like, this is military training. And not just
that, I feel like it's a reiteration. If people are paying attention, it is a reiteration of us versus them. In that low income apartment building, there were white people and immigrants, Hispanic people that are legal residents. I mean, there was a black people, there was a mix, and the only unifying feature of that group of people is that they were poor. And not only did they feel the need to go in and snatch those people, including their children, out of their beds, they destroyed their property. They destroyed their homes. They destroyed their property. It was such a a signal to me that, like, if you are poor in this country, you are less than nothing. We will treat you however the fuck we want to treat you, and you're just going to have to take it. And so the sooner the American people realize that it's not so much us versus them in terms of social issues, LGBT, immigrant, but if you are below a certain socioeconomic level, you're less than nothing to them, and they are going to prove that. They are proving that, and they're going to continue to prove that.
I
I
think
wanted to.
ICE.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I'll be quick. I think that we're talking about power projection, right? An important thing to note here, like Nick said, like these are wartime operations. ICE is not a law enforcement agency. It is a paramilitary group that is under the direct influence of the executive branch, by proxy, the oligarchy through Stephen Miller. And we have, this is like, it's literally like they made the federal government BlackRock. They took BlackRock, and I guarantee you, like BlackRock and these groups, they're providing ICE agents as well. This is the oligarchy's
out of Montreal.
Yep. This is a paramilitary group that is funded by our federal government, that is outside the scope of any of our checks and balances, and they have total autonomy, and now they are being given access to our military resources. But they have no accountability to any of the normal channels of command that you normally would see through the military and the oversight. But they are armed the same way, they are being trained the same way, and they are being used as a projection of power. And that's to intimidate the masses, like right out of our reading, right? Like that is the function of ICE. They are not law enforcement, they are paramilitary, and that is an exceptionally important distinction that need to be made. The Gestapo were not the police. They were a paramilitary group that was created and directly under the influence of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi party. And that's what ICE is, right? It's the same playbook.
Yeah, and they use the same playbook because it works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's not just Nazi Germany. It's Hungary. It's Italy. It's Argentina. Like all of these fascist places use the same playbook because it's proven and it works.
I was just going to jump in and talk about kind of like that idea of why these people are voting for and supporting things that harm them, kind of along these like lines of ICE and Medicaid and various issues that we see. The difference when you deal with the Democratic side versus the Republican side is Democratic voters not only hold Republican lawmakers to account, right? We educate ourselves, we yell about stuff, we protest, we know what's going on, we call our senators, but we hold our own people to the same account, right? We're doing the same thing with our own representatives. We're calling them, we're telling them they're not doing enough. I think of like Chuck Schumer, like we're really frustrated with our own people and we're making a stink about it. When you look at someone like Mike Johnson, talking to a reporter, and the first thing he says and the last thing he says, you'll notice that he uses very simple language. And the reason he does that is he's appealing to his base. He's saying things in a way that they understand. I didn't lie. You lied. Goodbye. Whereas when you hear someone maybe on the left, they're speaking in a lot more educated language and they're talking about bills and they're talking about funding, you've just lost that same viewer. They're no longer listening. And so you have these people who when we talk about distraction, we talk about Trump throwing distractions and he has something new every day and it's to distract you from the Epstein files. It's also to distract his own base from the decisions that they're making, because it's very childlike. Not to say that people are not educated, but there's this childlike mentality of only paying attention to the thing that's directly in front of you versus the thing that is a consequence or is happening 3 days from now or is a result of the thing you're doing right now, right? It's very childlike to not be able to perceive those things and only perceive the thing that's in front of you. So he is constantly giving them a nugget of something in front of them so that long term he can do these really horrible things to them, and they will continue to vote for him, they will continue to support him, they will buy his whatever merch he's hawking on his website. And even this week, when you look at when you looked at like the White House website, it was set up like a Fox News page. Like they had the red chyron across the top. They had like you know what I mean? Like it was, you know what the appeal is and who it's going to. It's meant to be very simplified and to speak in the simple language and to provide these simple things that look beneficial so that they have no pushback. Their party is doing whatever they want at the top because their people aren't pushing back. Whereas we're over here pushing back on both parties, right? We're saying, we see what you're doing. We hear what you're saying. This is not good enough, to our own people. And they don't have that. They don't have that pushback.
And to your point of that simplified language where you can make one point today and in 3 days you're going to make a different, absolutely opposite point, and yet they're going to accept it. At the bottom of this reading, it says if they cannot find one, they'll simply make one up, an enemy, which is often why their enemies can be weak and inferior and yet also powerful and threatening. So we saw this messaging out of them that transgender individuals are too weak to fight in our military, and then they turn around 3 days later and say that transgender individuals are nihilistic, angry, violent terrorists.
Right.
Like, which is it, guys? Which, can you pick a lane?
Right.
Well,
or even the other one that's now just a little bit of news while we talk about it is we have constructed the enemy of Caribbean drug traffickers as a armed conflict. We are now officially under the declaration of the president, which he has the authority to do, is to declare armed conflicts because of the post 9/11 terror, global war on terrorism, which, we should have gotten rid of some of these laws while we had the chance, but we fucking didn't because Democrats, you guys are weak and feckless and didn't do anything to protect the American people when you had the opportunity to. And we just blew up a fourth boat this morning, reporting coming out from Dissent in Bloom, from a tweet by Secretary of Stupidity Pete Hegseth, who blew up a fourth boat, killing four more Venezuelans. We do not know if they are terrorists or not. They were deemed terrorists by our government. There is no proof or evidence of terrorism. So here's what I'm going to say. Secretary of Defense, or as he wants to call himself, Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, committed another war crime this morning by blowing up extrajudiciously a fourth Venezuelan boat. The White House and Secretary of War are lying to you that they are in an armed conflict.
Well, they are in an armed conflict. It's just going one way.
Yeah, but they're lying to you that we need to be at war is, I guess, the more...
No. I was being a little bit flippant.
But what it's going to lead to is they're going to lie to you saying we have to be at war because they made up an enemy of Venezuela and drug traffickers to allow them to bomb Venezuela and provide the executive, doesn't matter which executive, could be the next one, but to provide the executive wartime powers and authorizations so that they can do things like run over the case that Melissa is covering about flock security and turn that into one, it's now of national security. We have to collect this data. That's bullshit. That is fascism. That's bullshit. That's gaslighting us into thought police and control of movement, i.e. 1984.
Not just that, that was a local issue where two residents of my city are suing our city. Flock Safety tried to intervene and join this case, and the federal judge denied that, saying you're just the vendor that provides the cameras. The city is the ultimate one that bears the responsibility of how to use the cameras. So they denied that. And so this previous Saturday, the federal Department of Justice has entered the chat. They've entered a statement of interest, and now they've pushed it off the bench trial for 4 months. Why is the federal government getting involved in a case between a citizen and their city?
Also, why is it that the owner of Palantir, Peter Thiel, one of the co-founders of Palantir, is now trying to purchase Flock Security and roll it into his overall Palantir data collection and surveillance system? That's a really big deal, and that's them creating an enemy to be able to consolidate power and consolidate tools and monopolize, or on however they want to say it is, monopsonize, so that they control both the consumer monopoly and supplier monopolies, and that we have no way to say no. Well, they created an enemy in Venezuela, in Venezuelan migrants. They've been doing it like Venezuela. They are like dead on wanting that. Somebody in there said, and I think it's Stephen Miller would be the key in all of this part, was like, Venezuela, let's focus on Venezuela and Venezuela only, and just fucking make a war with them. So they made up an enemy.
Yeah totally. 70% of Americans are within range of a Flock camera right now. So 70% of us on our daily drive go past a Flock camera. Flock cameras, they're not just tagging, it's an ALPR, right? They're not just grabbing a picture of you. An ALPR, it automatically reads your license plate, makes a timestamp that goes to the cloud, and it builds a history, it builds a profile on you. That means that when you decide to, if you go to the grocery store on Tuesdays, they will know. They will know you go on Tuesdays. They will know when you pass that Flock camera. And guess what? If one day they decide, you know what, Shane, he's annoying. He talks too much. He says shit we don't like. Well, we know where he goes to, get his groceries. We know he'll be there on Wednesday. We don't need to track him down. I'll just send some ICE guys over there. And when he shows up, we'll grab him, because we already have a profile on his whereabouts, what he does, what his daily routine is, and they probably have access to your, EBTs, right? When you pay with your Apple Pay or your card, they have your phone. It's not like they just have a singular, they don't even have to try. Like, they have it all. Our data privacy rights are non-existent. And, Walter said this morning, I think it's so true, is, Roe v. Wade wasn't just about bodily autonomy. It was about data autonomy, because your data is part of you. You make your data. And by setting the precedent that women don't have control over their own body, you also don't have control over your own data. And it's a violation of our bodily autonomy and our autonomy as people by them consolidating this data. And it is absolutely an attack on every single person's constitutional rights and their right to privacy.
Well, the right to privacy wasn't anywhere except in Roe v. Wade. So by killing that, that's what they killed.
Yeah.
So someone in my chat wants to know a little bit more about the cameras.
So I've been investigating the cameras, and I've worked with an insider who I will not name for obvious reasons. And they've given me some really startling information. Part of what makes Flock Safety in particular, there's quite a few of these companies out there. Another company that's operating out of Memphis right now has gone so far as to place one of their cameras on the utility pole in the yard of a local protester, a prominent local protester, and they have that camera aimed at her front door. The utility pole is owned by the city. That's city property. That's fully within their rights to do that. So I've posted that on my notes, so you should go check that out. But part of what makes Flock Security such a disturbing program, and their link to Peter Thiel, is that he was an investor in an incubator that Flock Safety was a part of. an interesting, a whole part of that is that Peter Thiel was asked to leave that incubator, and that's a whole other conversation. But he loved flock safety and has kept his eyes in very close contact with them ever since. Flock safety has developed a dashboard, and it's sort of they were the first company to develop this dashboard that didn't just stop at license plate readers. They have a dashboard provided to law enforcement, and especially federal law enforcement, where it will track everything for a person. It will tie in consumer data information. It will tie in even social media information. When you talk about building that electronic profile and connecting it to your license plate movement, that's where Flock Safety is the most dangerous company out there.
They're also doing these, and I was going to write this down, but I'll just say it instead. They're doing, if you look at obviously toll roads, but if you look at state crossing points, identify if there's a camera on there.
Right.
Because a lot of states now have state crossing cameras that are just. Oh, we lost Shane for a second.
Right, and Flock Safety has also begun dealing with corporations, so private businesses. Off the top of my head, Lowe's, Home Depot, FedEx trucks are carrying those cameras on the trucks. If they come on your property to deliver a package, or your neighbor's property, any license plate within the scope of that truck is capturing license plate information. Kaiser Permanente in California is using Flock cameras, so when you go for health care, they are tracking your license plate information.
Yeah.
Plus the little pictures they send you of them having delivered your their package is all adding to that data profile.
Right.
And so we got into this. It's good questions that got us here. We got into this part of the conversation because it is part of grievance, and they have a grievance against certain people, and they're going to collect all of our data and use that grievance to label us as insurrectionists, terrorists.
Yeah, it's part of that intimidation piece. Like, I know lots of people who are now very concerned about even participating with the actual the in-person book clubs that I've started in my area. In fact, we had to rename one of them the Pro-Democracy Book Club in order for people to feel comfortable coming to those book club meetings. And that's insane to me. It's insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guys, I got to hop off, but I wanted to say thank you.
Absolutely. I'm going to give, if you have just 1 second, Ellie, sure. I'm going to move us back to our previous screen. Can you give everyone just a quick rundown of where they can find you, how they can support you before you go?
Sorry, guys. I'm doing another
thing
tonight. So if you guys want to find me, I am basically Red Pencil Script on all social media. Most of my writing is here on Substack, and so that would be under the Panicked Unpaid Writer or Ellie Leonard. You can find me there.
Thanks, Ellie.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Hope you join us again.
Okay, we'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, Ellie. We'll talk to you later. All right. And so we are at the top or halfway through the hour and we're just about at 50 minutes are on our recording. We started just a little late, but we were getting some stuff, made sure everybody was all set up in the background. But this has been an incredible conversation overall. And I don't want to keep us too long because I want to make sure we respect Stephanie's time. And I've got some stuff I got to get done around the house today. But I think one of the things I want to do is make sure, Stephanie, you have some time to give some closing thoughts here on what you think about like what we talked about today and how you perceive all of this going on. It's really helpful to have your point of view as a historian, but also as someone who is actively supporting pro-democracy efforts and pro-constitutional efforts. And I think everybody who is doing that type of work needs to be shouted out in the best ways and boosted as much as we can. So I'm glad we can give you this platform to be able to do that.
Well, I thank you for having me on. I'm glad to be able to participate. I think the bottom line that I want to emphasize, and probably everybody watching this knows, is that we're not in danger of being in a fascist country. We are already there.
Yeah.
And for those people who wonder where the bottom is, take a look at what happened in World War II. It could go that far. So don't think that, keep your imagination lively. I sounded like an absolute loon today talking to a friend about how I don't want my kid to go to a different state to college, because when they invade and they set up checkpoints, I want them to be able to get home, right? I feel like I'm sounding like an absolute lunatic. But I don't, that's totally the trajectory we're on. And also I saw today that a third of Americans think that political violence is necessary sometimes, and that is on both parties. So we are barreling toward, between all the violence of the regime, all the stochastic terrorism of the regime, and the fear, we are accelerating toward whatever sort of end game is gonna look like. Oh, and one more thing. Let's just keep this positive on the end. By being here, guys, me being here, I was like obviously not in the best frame of mind this morning. That's what makes hope. It's actions. It's taking actions. It's paying attention. It's talking to people, it's becoming part of a community. So what you're doing by being here with us is building hope.
As I cover your face, put up Stephanie's QR code. I'm going to put everyone's up here in a second. I'm learning how to do all this hosting thing more and more on the fly as I go, and I want to make sure I get everyone included. I don't even know if Shane, somehow I don't have yours, even though I host with you all the time. Oh man, I don't know. I do. I have a little QR code for you. That's why. But please go follow Stephanie on wherever she's available. Freedom Over Fascism here on Substack. Stephanie G. Wilson is a friend of. We've got our first QR scan. That's amazing. Thank you to whoever did that.
Thank you.
And I've never seen that before. That's a big deal.
Oh, have you not seen that pop up when it does that? Yeah, man.
That's cool.
It's cool, isn't it? And so let me rotate.
Oh, in my thing, it's probably the same person who's standing.
And then we're going to put our good friend Ellie Leonard up. And she dropped off with us here. But please go and subscribe to all of our great contributors today, our guest, Banner and Backbone itself, and everyone else. So please, Stephanie, thank you so much. Shane, can you give just a couple seconds here where people can find you? Then I'll hand it over to Melissa, and then I'll close this out real quick with a goodbye.
Totally. My name is obviously Shane, but you can find me over at the Firebrand Project, top of SEO. So if you can't find me through Substack, guess what? You can just type the Firebrand Project in, and you get right there. Pretty cool. I'm a polemic essayist. I hate the system. I write about it, and you can find me every day at 12:30. The Firebrand Report, where I talk about 3 topics in the news, and I give you a take on it and what I think it means for our future. And we're just trying to build a community of people who speak out. Everyone here is a firebrand. If you're part of Banner and Backbone, you're a firebrand. Firebrands they stand up for what they believe, and they speak out against tyranny. And that's what we do. And Stephanie's a firebrand. Nick's a firebrand. Melissa's a firebrand. It's a title that everyone earns the second they stand up for our democracy and for the rights that belong to each and every person, regardless of how they appear, choose to identify, where they're from. It's about being there for the moral rightness of humanity.
Appreciate it, Shane. Melissa, hand it over to you real quick.
Yes, I usually like to end with a call to action today. It's not self-serving, I promise. I would like for your call to action, I'd like for you to go check out my notes. I've had some insiders that are inside federal departments drop me some information, and I have shared that information. One of them is press guidance inside the Department of Defense, directly ordering the press corps to blame Democrats for the shutdown, which is absolutely unreal. So please go to Counter Story Media, to my notes specifically from this morning. I'm dropping these as I get information. I sort of look into it, fact check it a little bit, and then I share it with you. I want to always keep that conversation going and keep any information I have, I share it with you so that you can see what's going on inside these federal departments.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Stephanie. I'm Nick Perro, host of the Sick of This show, and Sick of This Shit with Nick. I do political, social poetry, and commentary. And I host a morning show at 11 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Thursday. Stephanie is a repeat guest with me on my Monday show, where we talk about chronic illness in practice. And I love her insights, also just being able to hang out with her and others with chronic illnesses. So please come check out my work personally too. I appreciate everyone who comes in. And then finally, please support the network itself, Banner and Backbone. We are growing rapidly. We are very close to hitting the 100 paid subscriber mark on Banner and Backbone itself. We're 9 away. We could use 9 paid subs today. If you can, become a paid sub with Banner and Backbone and help us get across the 100 paid subscriber line. And that will help the network grow. It'll boost all of our platforms. We're also going to be doing some really cool additions to Banner and Backbone. I'm going to start streaming some restream casting of longer shows, which is going to be a compilation. The first one is going to be a compilation of our first 4 episodes of the book club. And so look out here soon I'll probably drop it on Sunday to do maybe 2 repeats during the day. So look out for the first 4 episodes of the Banner and Backbone Anti-Fascist Book Club, where we cover What is Fascism by Task Force Butler and Can It Happen Here? And I think we figured the answer to that question is yes, unfortunately. So with a call to action for everybody, try and start your own anti-fascist book club. If you cannot start one or you don't know how, we'll drop links and everything you need in the show notes. Thank you all for joining. Please subscribe to all of the contributors today and do something actively for democracy today. This was your first step in actively participating in your democracy today. Now go take some lessons and help people be less full of grievance. Or if they want to stay grievance filled, shuffle their grievance towards something that is positive.
And the oligarchy.
Grievance against the oligarchy, the robber barons who
we
are
all need
us.
to be against the oligarchy.
Yeah. Yep. So with that, this has been Banner and Backbone. Melissa, you look like you got one last thing for us.
Oh no, I have to run. That's it.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in for another great book club.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it so much. This has been fantastic. We'll see y'all next week.